Hey guys, this is Javin with AudioMediaProductionService.com. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick overview on the Midas M32 digital console. To start, it is just like the Behringer X32, so you run it just the same way as that console. So if you want, you can go ahead and check out those videos, but I know everybody wants to go ahead and see this console in front of me. So I'm going to go ahead and do a set of tutorial videos on this board. To start at the top, we have the config/preamp section. By every section of the console, there's a view button that you can press to get that section of the board on the screen. So if I hit view by the config/preamp, that brings up the preamp, and I can assign inputs here from any input on the back or your AES-50 ports. We have a gain knob. We have a phantom power. We have a polarity switch, and then we also have our high pass filter with the low cut shelf on or off. Underneath that we have the gate section, and a gate and gauge button, and then a view, of course. And then you can also see your gate working on your meter here with the dynamics and the compression and the gates. Next to that we have the dynamics section, which is the compressor or the expander. We have the threshold for that. Then we have the compression and gauge button. To the right of that we have the equalizer section. We do have 4 filters on that, so you can go ahead and hit view there. As you can see, we'll have a low, low mid, high, high mid. We have a mode button that you can change to high shelf, to certain sets of notch filters. We have a gain for that frequency that you selected, or that filter you selected. We have a frequency sweep, so you can choose the frequency you want, and then a bandwidth. To the right of that we have our bus sends. This is where, if you want to do it like an analog console, we can send to our monitors. There are 4 buttons. We have 16 outputs on the back of the console, so you would need, they're in layers of 4, so 1 through 4 is number 1, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, 13 through 16. And then each one of these becomes, so if I had 13 through 16 selected, this would be 13, 14, 15, 16. To the right of that, we have the main bus section. If you want your channel to be assigned to the stereo left and right, you'd have to have that selected and highlighted orange. To the left of that, we have the pan encoder. And then we have a mono center encoder, so if you want to do like a sends on fader sub on an aux kind of situation, you can do that here. It's your mono center that would be needed to be enabled, and then you can turn up how much of the send you want in the subwoofers. To the right of that, of course, we got the screen. So anytime you hit a view button on any section of the console, it'll change on the screen. There's 6 dedicated encoders underneath the screen, so you can get in depth with more of the parameters. We have an up and down, left and right arrow, so you can also flip through different pages of the screen. To the right of that, we have a home button, meters button, routing, setup, library, effects, mute groups, and utility. Any of these you can hit, and it'll change the screen. All these view buttons on the home screen are dedicated for this screen here. Some of the other pages do different things, like the meters. You can see all your meters at once. You can get in there, and I'll do more in-depth videos on these sections of the console. You have a routings page where you can choose your Cat5 ports, AES-50. We have a setup page, and this is where you can change certain parameters of the board. Like, say if you wanted the select button to follow whatever fader you're going ahead and touching at the time, you can do that, and you can change it here. Or you can change your remote, your network for your remote control, like iPad control, preamps, cards, scribble strips, things like that. Your library is a section of the board where you can save presets or channel presets or effects presets, routing. You can load and recall them. The effects section is where you can go ahead and choose any of the effects in the console and assign them to your user-defined keys and things like that. Mute group engage button. This is how you would assign mute groups to the mute group buttons. And then the utility button, kind of quickly, you can do a copy and paste, delete, situation, load, save preset. So that covers the screen. To the right of that, we'll have the monitor section. This is the section where you can get in depth with your talkback. If you wanted your lamp, the light for the console, you can get in there and turn it up or down there. This is also where you can plug in your near field studio monitors. To the right of that, we also have the talkback section. A and B, you have a latch and an unlatch, and these are completely customizable. You have your talkback encoder for volume, pretty much your gain. Then you have the plug on the front of the console. Unlike the Behringer X32, that plug is on the back where you can plug in your mic for your talkback. Moving down to the control surface, to the far left, we have a DAW remote switch, so you can control any of your DAW software with the console. And I believe it's only the 8 outputs that become control for your DAW, not the input side. Okay, and we do have the input section, which is going to be these 16 faders, and we have banks of 1 through 16, channels 17 through 32, your aux ins and your effects returns, and then your bus masters. Like any digital console, you would have to hit select on the channel you want to work on, and then that would pull it up on the screen. So say that I wanted to work on the kick drum or the drums in this case, I would go ahead and select the channel that I wanted to work on, and then the whole fat channel section will change accordingly to that one channel. And then so on. You can go through the channels that way. Top of the meters, so we had the select button. Below that, we have the actual gain meter. You got the compression and the gate button. Underneath that, we have a solo. So this is where you can do solo pre-fader listen or after fader listen. Underneath of that, we have a scribble strip. So instead of using board tape like we used to have to do on the old analog consoles, you can label it, put pictures, color code it. Under that, we have a mute button, and then of course we have the faders. One thing that's different between the Behringer X32 and the Midas M32 is the preamps on the back of the console. They actually put their Pro Console preamps inside this board, and then they gave us the better faders, the long throwing faders. I think they're 100 millimeter actually. So that covers the input side of the console. Moving on, we got the output side. And same thing, we have the select button, your gain meter, your solo button, your scribble strip would label it, your mute, and then your fader. And then we do have 4 layers on this console. We have DCAs. DCA stands for digitally controlled amplifier. These are like VCAs in the analog world, which stood for voltage controlled amplifier. But because we're on a digital console now, we're in the digital world. We're not working with voltage. If you want to select the DCA, you would hold down the DCA, and as you can see, the select buttons on the left side of the console change and show me which channels are going to that DCA. So this would be like a subgroup where I would turn this DCA up, and I can control the volumes and keeping the ratios in between them of multiple faders up and down with one fader. Next, we have the bus masters 1 through 8. This is where you can configure these to be any of your monitor sends, subgroups, effects returns, things like that. As you can see for tonight's show, I only got one monitor highlighted because they only use one monitor. I'm doing sound for a big band tonight. And then below that, you have your bus 9 through 16. And once again, bus 1 through 16 can be configured for anything you want: subgroups, effects returns, monitor sends. So in this case, I have these blue ones are actually subgroups, and then my purple are effects returns. So I have a reverb delay. With the subgroups, quickly go ahead and show you how to assign a subgroup. You'd select the button, hit sends on fader, and then the mutes become your subgroup. Moving on, we got the matrix 1 through 6. There's 6 matrices on the console. This section of the board can be configured to be your external crossover. They do have crossover filters in the console. Or you can have them be your regular matrices record outs. And then this far right fader on the matrix section would be your mono bus. Your master fader for your mono bus. To the right of that, we have 6 mute groups. You can easily assign those by hitting the mute group button, select that, and then hit the select button on the channels that you want to be assigned to that mute group. And then deselect it to actually engage the mute groups. We have the assign section of the console. This is a section where you can customize these buttons to be anything you want to quickly get through. Some good examples are your graphic EQs for your monitors. As you can see, my first button is my graphic EQ for monitor 1, graphic EQ for monitor 2, 3, 4, etc. I got my tap tempo delay for my echo right here. Then I have my front of house graphic EQ, and then, quick access to certain effects. So these can be completely customizable for anything you want. Right above that, we have the show control button. This is where you can recall your scenes, save your scenes for your different bands. You can do little sections of snippets where you can select and load presets of just on a per channel basis, or little changes. Say you wanted one channel to turn up in one monitor on a certain song, you could do that here and recall it during the show. This is where you can find your parameter saves and your channel saves. So if you had a novice engineer, you didn't want them to access certain parts of the board, you can go ahead and lock them out of that. And then this is where you find your MIDI controller. And then you have a cue list where you can recall scenes and snippets at the same time. That will do it for the quick overview on the Midas M32. If you have any questions, go ahead and visit audiomediaproductionservice.com. Please like, subscribe, and I will be putting a link down below in the description if you are interested in buying this console. You can visit my website at audiomediaproductionservice.com, and I do have these products on that page. It will take you to Amazon, which usually has the lowest prices for these consoles. Just for transparency, I am an affiliate for Amazon, so I do get a small commission if you buy through my link. Any of your support is much appreciated, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks.